Hey everyone, this is Sandeep back with 100 days of coding React and Redux. And in today's video, I'm going to talk about CSS in React, how you can manage CSS, how you can write. Obviously, CSS you'll write in a CSS way only, but how you can import CSS in React in your components so that your application can look beautiful. So let's jump into the video. So CSS in React. So there are multiple approach you can take while working with CSS in React. So you can have a one CSS file for the entire project. That could be one approach, and it works well with third-party CSS library. Like you can import any third-party CSS library. Like if you have heard of Bulma, Bulma is a very good CSS library. I would like to show you. So Bulma CSS. So it got all the ready-made styles needed. So I can click on getting started. Then you see here we got the components. So suppose you want to create breadcrumbs. So you got the CSS already available. You want to create cards. So you can see all these cards, right? If you want to create a navbar, probably all the navbars are available here. You see this, right? So there are components, but there are some other styles also. Like if you need to create form like input, you don't need to write CSS by yourself. You just need to write some of the class names, and that will make your components look beautiful. So that could be the first approach, you can take where you can include the third-party library directly inside your main index.js file, that entry file, or app.js file. Maybe I'll use index.js here. That's the main entry point. Or if you heard of Foundation or Bootstrap, right? That could be other example. Like they're similar to Bulma. Second approach, if you're writing your CSS by yourself, right? Entirely by yourself. So in that case, separation of CSS files into components. So your app.js is going to have its own app.css file. Product list is going to have its own product list. Not, the spelling is wrong. Let me correct it. Product list.product list.css file. Product.js is going to have the product.css file. But in the real world, when we are actually going to build application in an industry or in a company, right? Mostly we use the hybrid approach. Hybrid means the third option, third party plus your own component CSS file. So you can probably use Bootstrap, Foundation, or maybe Bulma also. But you need to do some customization because the styles provided by these people, they do not match with your project mockups, right? The mockups which are given by the designers. So you can probably create the input like this, or maybe you need to have an icon or something, right? In that case, you need to customize your CSS. So whichever path you take, I mean, hybrid is very popular, third party plus your own component CSS, or even if you're writing your own CSS from scratch or using just third party CSS. In all the cases, you should know how to import CSS file into your React component. That's what we are going to do today. So our application is already running, and I have written some of the styles related to the product list and product. So we are going to see the small example, and this is what we are going to do for all other projects also. You just need to understand the concept, how to use CSS in React. So if I go into my product list component, you see that I have written inline styles here, and this is not a good idea, right? We never write inline styles in React. Okay, so I'm going to take out these styles and I'm going to put it into a separate file, and then we are going to import that file and we will see. So I'm just going to copy this CSS, okay, and I'm going to remove it from here. As I remove it and save, you see that our product layout, list layout has been disrupted, right? So what can I do? I can create a new CSS file now, and I'll give it a name of product list .css. So it's similar to like how you write CSS in other in CSS language, right? And here I'm going to create the class name, right? So for product list, I'm going to create the class called product, or maybe I'm just going to call it a container. So let's call it a container, and I'm going to paste the CSS which I have copied, and we need to write it in a CSS way, not in a JavaScript way. So I need to remove these double quotes and display flex gap 20 pixel. Why it is showing an error in combination with float and position, determine the type of offset syntax. There must be something wrong with my syntax. I don't know why it is showing like that. Flex gap is 20 pixels. Okay, let me write it again. Display will be flex. I think it is flex gap or something like that. Flex gap, or I can use just gap and 20 pixel. Okay, this is looking fine now. So now I can use this class inside my product list. But first of all, I need to import that CSS file. And how to import that CSS file? You just need to type something like this: product list.css. So product list.css exists here only, right? So I'm using that same thing, import /product list.css. Now if I go back, it should change the layout, but it's not changing. Let me see why. Because I didn't use the class name, right? So you need to provide the class name also. That's container. See that? Our layout is back. One more example. So I'm using a separation of CSS file, one component, one CSS file, something like that. Similar thing we can do for the product also. Here I got padding and this one, so I'm going to copy this. Let's remove it from here. Save, and if I go back now, you see that products are not looking good. So I'll create a new CSS file called product.css, and let me create, maybe I'll call it a box. Okay, or maybe I'll call it a panel. Let's call it a panel. I'm going to paste my CSS here. So let me remove this. Let's bring in the border thing here. 2 pixels all black. And see, again, it is showing the same thing. So something is wrong. Maybe borders. I'll try border. This. Okay, probably I need to rewrite. There are some issues. So 2 pixel solid black. So padding is 10 pixel and border is 2 pixel solid black. I'm going to save, go back to product, give it a class name. And even I'm not getting the hints also. I don't know why Visual Studio is behaving weird. Let's give it a class name of panel. And if I refresh, it's not there because I need to import my CSS. Import /, and here also it's not showing the CSS file path also somehow. Product.css. See that? We got it back. So whenever you want to write CSS in React, there are 3 approaches, right? And probably in the series, I'm going to use Bulma, or I'll decide. I mean, I haven't decided yet whether to write the entire CSS by myself, or probably will use Bulma. Other is separation of CSS files into component like this, or the hybrid, third party plus your own component CSS files. But now you know how to import a CSS file, and CSS, nothing but it's going to have the classes only. You know how to import any CSS file into your component, how to use class names, and make your web application beautiful. Okay, so I think this video is helpful. I'm going to see you in the next video. Until then, you take care, goodbye, and thanks for watching the video.